This is an 8-iron, and it's a dead shank.
Wow.
Way right.
Oh,
Takes a hop
off the path. You got to be kidding me. Very tough pitch shot right here. You got to hit it into the hill. One hop up and bite, and it's in.
Kind of like that.
Well, I would like to welcome 5-time PGA Tour winner, golf commentator. I'm going to call him a Midwest legend because he is. Mark Wilson. Thank you, sir, for joining us on the Sub 70 podcast.
Jason, always a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you take us today. It'll be fun.
Heard you got out of our cold winters. You're down in South Carolina, and like I said, you're still a Midwest legend. You've earned it. How's life treating you? Family, kids, playing a little bit more golf. I heard, sort of what's going on in your world before we dive into this.
First off, you once again being from the Midwest, being from Wisconsin, lived in Chicago for so many years. You can't take the Midwest out of me. You can take me out of the Midwest, but I'm always going to have those ties for sure. And sad my Milwaukee Bucks are not going to get the second NBA title in a row, but last year was pretty exciting. With that said, love in South Carolina. The winter was harsh for those down here, but for us it was fine. The golf courses stayed open, and I think the way you put it down in South Carolina is we play year-round, but we don't play every day kind of thing. The golf courses certainly are in better shape, say from April through end of November, kind of like the Midwest, but at the same time, the weeks where it's not in the best of shape, you can still actually go out and play and have the random 70-degree day and not play to temporary greens, which is really cool. And I've got a good group of, say, 20-something pros in the area that great college players that are trying to make it on the PGA Tour. Some guys have Korn Ferry Tour status, Latino America. We got some good games doing that. So I've really enjoyed being embraced by those younger guys. They outdrive me by a bunch, but thankfully I hold my own maybe half the time in terms of score with them. Families assimilating very nicely. Matter of fact, my son's made the high school golf team, varsity team, as an 8th grader, and they're going to state for the very first time in 9 years for their high school. So things are good in South Carolina for me right now.
Is it fun? It's got to be fun, right? To tee it up against young pros, and the old KG veterans still got a little something, and they're kind of like, yeah, he still got it. It's got to, once you play with those guys, the competitive juices still have to kind of flow there a little bit, right? Where it's like, I'm not relenting. You're gonna get the best out of me in this round, and to be able to, what a great sport. In your mid-40s, you can still compete against guys 25.
For sure, I know that's what's really neat about it, and I'm preparing for something. I'm going to play some Korn Ferry events the next couple of years, leading into the PGA Tour Champion. So I have that desire to have that good competition. Those moments where your heart starts beating a little bit faster, and you're wondering if your mind can be takes you to a good shot or a bad shot for that matter. And so I've really enjoyed it. And I've never been a long hitter in my career at any level, but watching these guys move it out there, it's just phenomenal. A lot of times they're 30 to 50 yards past me, but ultimately you got to get the ball in the hole. We've had some good games, that's for sure.
Are you probably hitting the ball farther than you ever have hit it? Are you working on speed and power, getting ready for the Champions Tour, knowing how far those guys still pop it from, I've seen it out there, they can still really, really play, and you got to make a bunch of birdies out there, right? I always heard those guys say, you got to go pretty low out of the gate.
Jerry Kelly certainly told me about a year ago, he's like, keep your game sharp. Don't just put those clubs in the closet for a few years and think it's going to be easy out here. And I've had a chance to do a little commentating out there too and watching those guys compete. The golf courses, let's face it, they're not as long as the PGA Tour, of course, but it's not like they're playing 6,500-yard courses. I mean, it's still some really good golf courses, firm greens, and they're still, you got to find a way to shoot 4 or 5 under just to kind of keep pace, it seems like. So speed-wise, I'm not really, I did some speed work maybe the last couple of years, and I've got my swing speed up higher than it's ever been. With that said, it's like at 108 is my cruise speed. 160 ball speed is a good day. and that's plenty good enough to compete out there. I know that my game is going to be more about precision and dialing in 100 yards and in, making sure my putting is going to make my fellow competitors shake their heads sometimes with all the putts I make, and that's where I'm going to really get it done out there.
How does the Korn Ferry work for you guys with the amount of wins you have? Do they give you X amount of starts per year to kind of get you ready from, is it like 48 on up, or how do they sort of work with you guys who have had that long career on the PGA Tour to get ready for the Champions Tour?
As far as I know, and I have to get down to the details of this, I believe there's a category, well, I know there's a category for 48, 49-year-olds that are getting ready for the PGA Tour Champions. There's 2 spots every week. Of course, not the Korn Ferry Tour Finals, but most weeks they have spots, and it's off of career money. I think it's career combined money, Korn Ferry Tour and PGA Tour earnings. And so when I turn 48, I'm eligible in that category. It kind of depends on who else decides to play that given week. And you're talking about guys my age. You're talking to the Heath Slocums, J.J. Henry, some guys like that. I haven't looked at it close enough. I think they're ahead of me in career money. Some of those, like a J.J. Henry, still playing the PGA Tour regularly. My plan is to play a handful of events. Hopefully ones that are drivable. I'll play at Thornblade, the BMW that's in my backyard now. Maybe go to Raleigh. I'd love to come up and play in Chicago and support Evan Scholars and do that event. We'll see. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But I do know that the competition is something that I need to continue to do when 48 and 49. I don't want to, even if I'm going to miss a bunch of cuts out there, just the feel of a golf tournament and getting ready for those things and how you prepare, I think will get me ready for the PGA Tour Champions. So I take that very seriously.
Yeah, I was playing golf with TA3 out in Vegas a few weeks ago, and he put up a 65 and crushed me in a game. And I said, great round of golf. And he said, there's golf, and then there's golf. What we did today was fun with our group. It's a different rhythm. It's a different way of doing it when you play competitive on tour. And he says that takes reps and that takes work. Does that make sense of what he's saying? And what's he sort of describing there of, yes, you can still have some money on your home course and you can compete, but there's still a different, is it a vibe or a feeling or something where you're playing on the big boy tours?
Yeah, the big thing for me, Jason, is that you put everything out on the PGA Tour, PGA Tour Champions, or a mini tour event, unless it's match play, of course. We don't play a whole lot of match play. And, when you're playing games at the club, I feel like for the most part, the people I play with are very nice and you want to have a competitive game back and forth, but usually anything inside of 3 feet is good, or even 4 feet sometimes. And it's like, you know what? I got to grind on some of those. Sometimes a 3-footer on greens that are 12s, a little left to right down the hill, that gets your juices full on the PGA Tour. And I want to make a few of those when I'm practicing. And I think that's part of what Tommy was talking about. And then also the condition of the golf course. Let's face it, these tournaments, especially when you're playing PGA Tour Champions, these golf courses are trying to peak for the week that we show up. Therefore, you see conditions where they're, as long as weather stays out of it, firm and fast. You got to be way more precise with your approach shots. The hole locations are tucked in the corners. When you're playing just around at the club, there's that vibe where, first of all, the hole locations aren't maybe as difficult. The greens are a little softer, a little slower, and not everybody knows what you do at the end of the day. When you kind of tee it up on a big event like the PGA Tour or PGA Tour Champions events, you've got a number next to your name at the end of your round, at the end of your week. You got your friends, family, other people just paying attention to you. There's something about that adds a little bit of pressure, and I like that. I feel like I've always thrived knowing that. Whereas if you're just at the club and you win a few bucks off of your buddy, that's all well and good. But if you play poorly, no one knows either. So there's not that same pressure.
Yeah, and it made sense to me. I think that's kind of what he was saying, right? It's good to have these good rounds at home, but then translating it over to when the TV cameras are watching you and people are watching you, and the courses are definitely harder. Like this is, we played Las Vegas Country Club, which was his home course, and it's set up, for the members. It's not the hardest thing in the world. It's not a pushover, and you probably played tour events where they still had it there. But it's solid. But yes, there's right? Like, I think people, some people realize, but don't realize too, like when you go to a Champions Tour event, that golf course is harder than it is for the members. It's right. It's their case to showcase it. It's go look how deep the rough is and the green speeds and all of that other stuff, and go shoot 66 from 6,800 yards. It's
right.
It's a different beast.
Very the course ratings on golf courses, and I started keeping a handicap maybe 5 years ago just because I kind of wanted to know where it was at. And if I played events at the club, then I could do that. And there's something to be said about when you go play a PGA Tour course and the course rating 75.0. Is it really 75.0 in the conditions we play it in? The green's that firm and fast, and they might move a tee up here or there, but some people argue that it's actually harder than that number. The course rating thing, when a PGA Tour player is posting their scores, is a little bit up for debate.
Oh, I think you're correct. I think like J.J. Colleen, he got into Byron, he kind of plays part-time. He shot a 78 in the opening round, and he said that's about what a really strong zero handicap player at your club would shoot. And that was like +6 or 7 on a tour event course. And I think he's 100% right. I think there's that much of a difference.
Yeah, and that was a course too where the cut was 5 under and the winning score was 6 under.
Right, but I think that's a really good guide if you were somebody hits at 275, 280, and we're a legit zero handicap. That would be my guess. What you would shoot 77, 78, 79. No way you're shooting 70.
Right, it sounds about right for sure.
It's harder. One last thing before we get into the PGA, with kind of doing some coverage on the Champions Tour, we kind of talked about that you got to go low out of the gate. But is there a couple other things of just you looking at stats or watching from afar, but with your background that you found interesting or eye-opening from kind of covering those guys out there of a few things or tidbits that you kind of saw or from your observations?
Well, they're really approachable. I think just a lot of them have mellowed with age, right? I think we all do. I think about myself playing the PGA Tour, and I was a little more standoffish, right? I mean, I did embrace the fact that we're an entertainer, but at the same time, my ultimate goal was to shoot the lowest score. And if you're going to be in my way and slow me down in any way, I might, go the other direction. Out there on the PGA Tour Champions, they really embraced that entertainment product. The first event I did had celebrities playing alongside the players. Tony Romo, Annika Sorenstam, people like that were playing. And that was a lot of fun. It was funny seeing some of the other athletes seem like they were taking it more seriously than the PGA Tour Champions guys. So that's the biggest thing. I'm really excited for that laid-back atmosphere out there. But then they're also going to shoot a lot, some really good scores. I haven't dove in super deep to it, but I will say the driving distance, for the most part, was a little shorter than I was expecting. And that was very, I guess, comforting for me. They still move it out there. There's no doubt. You've got some guys that can really move it out, but at the same time, they're the guys that hit it relatively short really have a place out there. So I think the tour is set up more for precision, and that's definitely where my game has thrived.
Well, big week, PGA Championship. So the first thing, it's just out there. I thought he would be competing. The whole Phil thing, like, can you square this for me? Because I'm honestly confused by it at this point. Like, it's a major, the defending champion. So even if you're going to the other league, you made history last year. Like, help me out. I'm confused how you're not there defending this, and then where's this sort of going? And I'm lost here.
I'm a bit lost too, and I try to understand it day by day, and it's just really hard. I mean, there's that one school of thought saying, hey, this would be a great opportunity to, if he's really looking for as much revenge and to just kind of stick his nose up at everybody, is to announce this week that he is playing the LIV Tour. The week that he's going to defend his title at the PGA Championship, he's going to go ahead and kind of take the headlines. We'll see if he does that or not. I'm really, I guess, saddened by the whole thing, because I was on ESPN's coverage on ESPN Plus doing featured groups last year at Kiowa. We got to follow Phil in his round on Friday and how he zoomed up that leaderboard and like, oh, could he really hang on and do this? He wasn't really in great form. And then he gets the job done and wins a major, the oldest to ever win a major championship. He was just his popularity was going up by that, plus what he'd been doing on social media for a couple of years. He was just a fun follow. You're like, what's Phil going to do next kind of thing? Of course, this is what he's done next. And time does heal wounds, so we'll see how this goes down the road. But, there had been comparisons with Arnold Palmer for so many years about growing the game and just being the gentleman he is. I think those are over now. It doesn't seem like Phil can be talked about in the same light. I was really hoping he was going to play the PGA Championship, defend his title, and kind of try to put some of that behind him. And if that's his swan song, that'd be great. I don't know if he felt his game wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to show his face yet. It's been really bizarre, and I'm really looking forward to finally some of these events, the LIV Golf events, happening, so we can sort of put some of the speculation behind and go ahead and go forward with it all. I played with Phil Mickelson a few times. Certainly, I watched him closely, especially when he was around the greens, and watched his creativity. But I think part of it goes into, some of these star athletes, some of these, not necessarily an athlete, but just a person who's achieved so much in terms of a world's view. How did they get there? What's in their mind? There's been some, I'm sure, super nice guys that have got the job done and that have done it totally cleanly. But there's got to be something different wired in some of these extraordinary, successful people in terms of the world's eyes, what they're able to accomplish, to be able to compartmentalize their lives, right? So there's so much going on, I think, behind the scenes with Phil Mickelson. For him to be able to go on a golf course and then just go out there and shoot the scores he was able to do, to have the career he did, all this other noise is going on, is tremendous. And I think it speaks volumes to just being able to be in the moment. And we'll see what the next moments are going to be for Phil Mickelson. Can't take the wins away, but certainly it's amazing how some words and some conversations and going against a tour that gave you so much for so long can quickly just kind of tear all that apart.
Do you think he almost needs a little of this chaos going on to keep it interesting? Is there something that seems like there's always, right? Like, do you almost need to like flip everything upside down every now and then just to keep yourself, I don't know, motivated? Yeah,
Jason, that's an interesting point. I didn't never thought about it that way, but he has talked about the rush. I mean, we know he's a prolific gambler, and how can he be interested again in something? Seems to me like it'd be pretty cool just to, continue to pass along the amount of, or the age of a major championship. Like he's got the oldest. Let's go win another one. Let's get that Grand Slam. Let's win the U.S. Open. Let's keep going down there. But apparently that's not enough motivation for him, so he's gone down a different road.
And if it's money, what this is costing him off the golf course, I mean, it better be a truckload. Because I mean, right? I mean, this is, when you have offices all over the world, you can't go say those things, and like you get, and as quickly as people can, air quotes, be canceled, and that's a whole nother story. But I mean, like this, it better make it up, because he made way more money off the golf course than he did on the golf course, and maybe he's got a master plan and I'm not quite seeing it, but it's interesting to say the least, right? We'll give him that. Like, he's a one-off, that's for sure. I have always enjoyed him. I always thought he was good for the game. The talent was immense. He's one of those guys where it could be like awful, then the next week he wins. So I even thought without a lot of prep work, he'd be ready to come into the PGA and kind of do it, right? Like, it just seems like he has one of those games where he can find it really quick.
Yeah, and he's got confidence. No matter what he's going to bring, I can't get in his head, but I think he's a very confident golfer no matter what game he brings. He's not out there playing for other people and worrying about what they think. He's going to go out there and be free no matter what. I just still remember, the first time I was basically introduced to this Phil Mickelson was when I was basically about a 12-year-old, 13-year-old wondering what the next level was for me. And it was American Junior Golf Association events. And who was on the cover of the brochure? Well, it was this left-handed golfer. And at the time, I mean, they just didn't seem like there were many left-handed golfers. Yeah, you had Bob Charles, but it just wasn't a thing. It was like there was right-handed golfers. And I remember my dad seeing the brochure, and he might have made the joke that, oh, no, I think they reversed the image on the brochure. He's right-handed. And I was like, yeah, that's probably right. And it turns out, it's that collar-up kid as a 16-year-old player of the year on the American Junior Golf Association indeed was left-handed and certainly continued his winning ways in college, and then won an event as an amateur on the PGA
crazy.
Tour.
Yeah.
It's crazy what he was able to accomplish. That's something Tiger Woods didn't even do. And here he is now with this. I just, I pray for him, and I pray for him and his family. I think you said earlier too, we're not the judge of what's going on. He might have a master plan. I just, pray ultimately for his peace with his family, really, and wonder what him and his wife Amy are talking about with their kids about everything that's going on. When you're in the public eye like that, the people are bound to talk around you when they find out who your dad is or who your husband is, and I just pray for peace there.
What do you expect from Tiger this week?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly won the last major championship that was there, 2007. It was a lot warmer then. I played in that one. That was kind of the story. So I'm glad that this PGA Championship is more about the golf course. Once again, I don't want to bet against him. Right? We're all like a year apart in age. He was always the story wherever we went, whether it was at the Orange Bowl in Miami, whether it was the Optimist Junior in San Diego, or U.S. Junior, whatever it was, he was the story, and he usually won. That was what was amazing. He kind of exceeded everyone's expectations, and he continues to do that with his win at the Masters in 2019. So I'm not going to put any, I'm not a betting man, but if I wouldn't necessarily put any money on him. But once again, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes out there and makes the cut again. I think anything inside the top 10 is highly unrealistic. But once again, he's a driven guy, and him even shooting under par that first round at the Masters was something I wasn't expecting. So time will tell.
Is it a way easier walk than Augusta?
Not really. I mean, I think it's just a little bit easier, but still, it's a very hilly place. So no, I think that's, once again, I haven't had the injuries that he's had, but at the same time, once you get into the heat of it, I remember having a bad back and playing some mini tour events where I just did not think I could go, and I warmed up on the range. And I'm like, I just don't think so. I'm like, well, I'm going to go hit the first tee shot and see. And there was like a flip, a switch was flipped. Like all of a sudden the back pain was somewhat gone because you got that adrenaline
rush. Yeah, and it's like, all right, it's go time. And
so I don't think that the walking really has a whole lot to do with it. His golf swing looks really smooth. Once again, he'll be the story. It'll be fun to see how he does.
What do you remember from the golf course from playing in 2007? Absolute beast. Did it seem too tight where it makes sense where they did do the redo and Gil took out a bunch of trees and brought a couple creeks back into it? Did it, what was sort of your recollection from playing in it in a major?
I remember sweating a lot. I mean, it was 100 degrees is what I remember. But no, the golf course, yes, heavy Bermuda rough, 25 to 30 yard wide fairways at the most, a lot of dog legs and leaning fairways too. Kind of like not as severe as Olympic Club out in San Francisco with some of those holes, but kind of some of those types of things. And so, yeah, I think I remember finishing 6 over par for 2 rounds and thinking I was going to make the cut on the number, maybe with a shot to spare, and it ended up being 5 over. So I missed by a shot, which was kind of a bummer. But I do remember that and being very tight corridors. And so it's going to be interesting to see now that the fairways are going to be on average, I believe, 14 yards wider. So a lot more room off the tee, but then also with that said, a lot more short grass around the green.
Yep.
Your misses are going to go much further away from the hole and find maybe a little creek or some bunkers. And with that Bermuda fairway cut, I mean, even if you talk to Southern players, I think they would agree that's the toughest grass to hit off of in terms of a 60 degree that you're trying to hit high and soft. When you got that grain into you, oh boy, it's intimidating.
So who do you think that favors then, right? So let's look at the rest of the field besides the Tiger and Phil and okay, we got a wider golf course. We got a little bit more room. And I kind of, from a short game standpoint, right, it's not like your traditional major championship where it's sort of open and flop and hope. It brings different shot making into it. So who do you sort of, who do you like this week that with the redesign, because it's kind of a fair golf, and it's a new golf course for everybody at some level. There's not a lot of history you can take from it. What kind of player or what players do you think would really shine, during this week?
Well, with that said, I think it's players that are still pretty precise with their irons, because no matter what, if you are off the green and it's going to kind of funnel down a lot of these slopes, yeah, you have the imagination, but even the best are really, they have a hard time with those kind of shots. Even a Patrick Reed is going to struggle around the greens a little bit. So that's why I take the best iron players. And Max Homa's playing some great golf, already two-time winner this season, won his last start. Justin Thomas is fighting for a win. No wins yet this season. 6 straight seasons he's had a win, and so he'd like to add to that and get his second major championship. He's a great iron player. He lives in the top 10 strokes gain approach. So there's a couple of names that kind of come out. I know what you're getting at. It's like, hey, okay, these fairways are wider, so you can kind of spray it just a little bit more. How about a Dustin Johnson looking for that first win in a while? He's not hitting the driver like he did, say, 5 years ago, where it was like automatic. That little cut out there, he's kind of hit some double crosses every once in a while. So he could be a guy that can contend as well this week.
What about a Spieth coming off a good finish at the Byron? Great iron player, great imagination, and driver not his normal strong suit, but does that width give him a little bit of advantage of trying to hit the slam here potentially?
He's a great call, Jason. I agree. Watching him play last week, I was on the radio coverage. There were so many times when you thought there was adversity that happened, usually in the form of missing a putt inside 4 feet. He missed a couple of those last week, or just a wayward drive. His misses aren't as big as they used to be, but he hit one wide right on 12 yesterday on the par 5 when you really need to get the ball in the fairway. And he did an amazing recovery shot. So, yes, his imagination is good. He's looking for that career Grand Slam. I don't think that's necessarily something that's going to halt his freedom, though. I think he feels like he's got it back, and he's playing very confidently. And, around the greens, he's almost always that 60-degree wedge kind of guy that hits some ones that really wow you. A lot of shaft lean usually for him. And, but he does it really well. Some people argue with that Bermuda, you really want to use the bounce and kind of let it glide through the turf. Well, those are the people that haven't played competitive golf in front of a lot of people and have hit that little chunky one. Sometimes you got to go the leading edge. I don't want to go there very often either. But sometimes you have to go there, and Jordan Spieth's as good as anybody with it, and he's riding a mountain of confidence. Let's just see if he can clean up those putts inside of 4 feet. There's something going on in his brain. It's been his whole career, really. He's had those moments. For such a great, prolific putter to struggle inside of 4 feet, kind of reminds me maybe of a Tom Watson, maybe when I was cheering for him 15 years ago, and he missed that occasional 2-footer, but he could roll in the 15-footers. We'll see if Jordan can clean up those short misses this week.
Would you have thought about changing your wedges up for this week? Would you have gone into the tour van and tried some different grinds and bounces for the shots you're going to have to play off that real tight Bermuda?
I've done that in the past a little bit, but usually I just like to have my wedge travel, and know the shots that I'd have to, the adjustments that I have to make personally in terms of my technique to go ahead and make it work for me. But there's something to be said about that, Jason, to hedge your bets, right? Why don't you change it? But if you're going to change something for, say, the shots in like the Bermuda fairways, well, that makes the bunker shots feel different too.
Right.
So it's just kind of, for me, it was always a hard one to do mid-season. Now, off-season, if I'd go ahead and kind of experiment with some of that stuff, but the places like TPC Sawgrass in May when you had that thick Bermuda, I never did go to the van, but I thought about it.
Yeah, or you just change the technique, or put it like you said. If you have to make contact first, lean it a little bit more off the back foot, a little bit more bump and run sort of scenario. If you really had to sort of, not get overly cute with it, is that kind of how you would attack it?
I would, and what I really like about the setup though is, and I can remember at Olympic Club playing the U.S. Open 2012, and how the 17th hole played as a par 5. They shaved that area to the right of the green, and there's some bunkers over there, but then they shaved the area all the way down. So if you miss the green to the right, going for it in 2 especially, it's going to roll 50 yards down to the right. And I still remember playing well the first round there, standing in that fairway and being as nervous as I would be if there was a penalty area to the right. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, I hit over there, and I did one of those where I rolled it up 3 times, walked away. I think I made an 8 on the hole, and kind of, it just ruined my round. I ended up missing the cut by a shot the next day. But that's what I think we're going to see a lot of. And I really like that it's not only the shot that you might see guys have around the greens, it's the shot before. It's the iron shot into the green that is going to play in their mind, because they know a little miss here and that golf ball is going to keep rolling further away from the hole.
And then from a fan standpoint, that's cool to watch that guys, even at the level you played at, still get a little bit of heebie-jeebies over a shot, right? Because you guys look like there's never a heebie-jeebie. You go through your routine, talk to the caddy, and do it. It's cool to know that even guys at your level still are like, oh, don't hit it there, right?
Oh, I guarantee you for the most part, we're all thinking that. I mean, I can only speak for myself or for some people that have told me what they're thinking, but it's there. It's just a matter of harnessing it. I heard Justin Lauer, rookie on tour, say a really cool thing last week, and he thought about negative comments or negative thoughts that come into your mind as like waves in an ocean. It's like, okay, they're going to come in, but those waves are always going to go back out. And so he thinks of those as like, so you're not like angry with yourself that they even happened. You bring them in, maybe laugh at yourself, like, I cannot believe I'm thinking that I might miss this right of the grandstand right now. Laugh at yourself, and then let that thought just go away, and then let's all focus as much energy as possible on where I want that golf ball to go.
Yeah, almost accept the fact that this is a part of this, and having the game plan, for lack of a better word, to let it go, refocus, reset. Let's hit a quality golf shot here. I can do this. This is what I do for a living.
Exactly. It's easier said than done, but that's what we try to do.
How did you prepare for a major championship, or did you prepare different than a regular tour event?
I wasn't sure how to do that. At first, I put them on a pedestal, right? I got to go play Augusta National before, and I did that. That's a different place. That was kind of like to try to get a little bit of mystique out of it before you show up. But then I think my first year was in 2011. I made 2 of 4 cuts. Best finish in a major was 25th. I'm like, okay, we got to do something different here. And then I went the next year and I said, I'm going to downplay them. They're just another event. I'm not going to treat them anything different. And I missed every cut. So that didn't work either. I think by me doing some of that, I was still putting it on a pedestal, right? By kind of trying to treat it like another event. So I think the only thing that changed, you thought about the golf course a little bit more ahead of time than I would have if I was going to play the Honda Classic a couple weeks down the road. I wasn't hitting extra drives on the range, getting ready for the tee shot on 10 at PGA National, right? But I would do that for major championships maybe a week or 2 ahead of time.
It's hard not to think of it that way, right? Because I imagine it does put a little bit more emphasis on the work you and your caddy have to do to hit the right golf shots, right? It's a tougher test than most tour events. So, I mean, it has to be a little bit of pre-work going into it, of what you're kind of wanting to see and what you're wanting to hit, and maybe at Augusta, work on a little bit more of a draw every now and then, or if you're going to play in the Open Championship, work on a few little knockdown shots that you know you're going to have wind and weather at some point, probably in your draw, right? And was there there has to be a little bit of that, right?
No question. Yeah, the 10th hole at Augusta, you practice that draw off the tee, right?
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Look at a tree out there on the range, like, okay, I'm going to pretend that's the left side. I'm going to kind of hook it way over, but never overhook it to there. Yeah, little stuff like that. Putting too. I still remember my rookie year on tour being at the Honda Classic at Mirasol 2003, and Nick Faldo was hitting putts next to me. So this is a month and a half before the Masters, and him telling Fanny, let's go hit some putts. Let's hit some downhill left to right 6-footers to get ready for Augusta.
Yeah, so
he
was there. Mine was already there.
It was already there 6 weeks in advance. I was like, whoa, I'm just trying to keep my card this year. But, they're preparing for those. So it's a different mindset. But, I think you always have those kind of in your mind as you're going out to practice. And once again, it's about if you have control of your golf ball, you can fit in any golf course, right? And so I think experience is good, but I'd always pick the player whose form is better going into a tournament. No question about it.
Well, I appreciate your insights. It's always cool to hear somebody who has played in these things, who's won on tour. It's always an interesting conversation, I think, to get in your mind and what are they seeing? How are they going about it? What are they doing with it? It's just fascinating if you love golf. So thank you so much for taking the time today. Greatly appreciate it. I'm excited for this week. I want to see the redo. I've heard it's going to be great. And I love how the tour now is kind of doing these big events each month, right? We got, players back in March. Then you got the Masters. Boom, May, another major, right? Like I love the flow of how we got this going here. It's good stuff.
It is, yeah. I still remember 2005 when Tim Fincham announced the FedEx Cup to us and said, this is what we're going to do starting in 2007. And of course we were a little leery about the whole thing. And we realize now here 15 years later, we've made a lot of adjustments and we'll continue to make adjustments to make it better, fix up the fall, whatever it is. But the PGA Tour golf is certainly thriving right now, and I too look forward to the PGA Championship and see who gets it done.
Yeah, it's going to be a great week. Thanks, Pro. I appreciate it.
Of course, Jason, all the best. Everybody hit it straight, one putt off in the summer.